Remember Peanut the squirrel, the social media star, and his friend Fred the raccoon? They were seized from their rescuers, Mark and Daniela Longo, late last fall. And during a raid on the Longo's farm by the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, both animals were almost immediately put down, igniting outrage across the country and even emerging as a Trump campaign talking point during the presidential election. Well, New York Assemblyman Jake Blumencranz has now introduced a bill in the state legislature that would require a 72-hour waiting period before animals seized by state environmental officers are euthanized. He and Peanut's owner, Mark Longo, join me now. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having us on today.
Yeah, a lot of our viewers have been following this closely. Mark, state officials said they raided your home due to anonymous complaints and that Peanut bit an officer and he and Fred were then put down due to rabies fears. Both later tested negative for the disease. Have you gotten sufficient answers for exactly how all this happened?
And I just want to say thank you for having us. Since October 30th, we have heard nothing. We've gotten zero answers. But we've told we can do better by the state officials of the DEC. So we're really trying to understand what that actually means. But I know with Mr. Blumencranz and myself, in passing Peanut's law would be a tremendous movement in the right direction to make sure that Peanut and Fred didn't die in vain. And we could actually work on animal rights and make this a positive out of a very bad tragedy. Unfortunately, two incredible animals lost their lives on October 30th.
Assemblyman Blumencranz, can you tell us a little bit about the bill? How would it work?
Sure. It is essentially a bill that works on the procedures and protocols that are in place currently and what we want to see in place in the future. As you said, the 72-hour waiting period and due process for families and individuals who have animals that have been seized would then have the ability to have a procedural operation of due process where they can intervene. So it's veterinarians and families and individuals making these decisions as to the fate of these animals, and not bureaucrats and red tape that decide arbitrarily that these animals have to be killed. Of course, in instances where there's human life at risk, there are avenues in which the DEC can do what they have to do. But in cases like Peanuts, this would never happen.
And I want to follow up with you just a little bit, Assemblyman. Are you concerned that if passed, the law, though, could put state environmental officers in danger if there is a legitimate rabies concern? And how would they know?
Of course, I don't think they would be in a situation where they'd ever be in danger, because if human life or the life of the officer or any instance in which humans may be in danger are at play, then they would not have to go through this similar due process system. What happened to Mr. Longo, essentially a SWAT team of individuals from the DEC swarming his house, destroying his home, ripping his toilet out of the ground to make sure they go through this search. It was an overkill that DEC has self-admitted, and a procedure that clearly didn't work and should not happen again.
Oh, I'm looking at these videos, and man, it's so sad that Peanut's gone. Mark, tell me a little bit more about Peanut. Why'd you love him so much? I have a golden retriever at home. Most people don't have a pet squirrel or a pet raccoon, but what do you remember most about him?
Peanut was my best friend. I did literally everything with him, and it's still tough to this day. I'm sitting in Peanut's room right now, and it's a memorial. But like I've said since the beginning, we shouldn't be having this conversation. I should still be making silly content with a lovely animal who deserved every chance to be, a healthy, happy squirrel. And that's what he was doing for the last 7.5 years. So, watching this unfold is just nothing short of a tragedy.
Yeah, I mean, I had a yellow lab when I was in my 20s, and that dog went through everything with me. They're almost like family members. And even though it's a squirrel, you probably actually take the squirrel with you, maybe even more places. I wish he was still around. Assemblyman, are you hopeful? You think this thing's going to get passed?
I am hopeful, and I'd like to add that Mark, whilst the Peanut and Fred were like pets, Mark runs a sanctuary and facility in which he takes in animals that are going to slaughter or have nowhere to go. So as much as they try to make this out that Mark was a crazy guy with the squirrel, he has over 95 horses. He has hundreds of animals on his sanctuary. I've been there myself. I've been to many of these sanctuaries, and it's important that we protect individuals who are taking care of animals that have no one and nowhere and have human-driven policy like Peanut's law. And I think we can get this done in a bipartisan way, because animal welfare is not a partisan issue.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. Also, don't forget to click that red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.